and in many ways challenging questions that have come up following the talk on humor and relating to what's happening to all of us during this time of the pandemic and in the wake of George Floyd's murder. But first, before we move into the questions and my responses, let's sit for a couple of moments together. Just relaxing, breathing deeply, eyes closed to eliminate external stimulation. Breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth with the belly soft and relaxed. Thoughts come, let them come, let them go. Notice them. Gently bring your mind back to soft belly. Okay, open your eyes, let your attention come back in the room. I don't know about you, but I have lots of thoughts keep coming. So that's why I'm continually reminding myself as well as you to bring the mind back to soft belly. Sometimes when I do this soft belly breathing, I'll have my notebook or at least a piece of paper and a pen near me so I can write down some of those thoughts because they are indeed interesting. And I don't want to focus on them when I'm doing this concentrated meditation, but I would like to be able to preserve them and return to them later. So I had a whole bunch that I will hopefully remember, and I'll write them down after this Facebook Live time with you. But now let's turn to the questions. First one, I often find myself using humor as a mechanism to hide my true feelings and emotions. How can I shift away from this tendency without feeling like I am losing a valuable aspect of my personality? It's a great question. Humor is so beautiful. That's what obviously the whole point of the webinar, how freeing humor can be. On the other hand, and that's why I appreciate this question, we can use it as a defense. I talked about what Nietzsche called the herd laughter, laughing at other people's misfortunes. Taking that as an opportunity to say, let me take a look at myself rather than focusing on them. And it's similar if you're using humor to deflect attention from what your feelings, what's going on inside. Now, sometimes you may need to do that. It may be life-saving. Humor is what people do who are fighting wars. It's what prisoners use. It's what people in extreme situations. I know my brothers and I, growing up with my parents in a household that was often crazy and unpredictable and difficult, we used humor as a way to move through the situations, to not feel overwhelmed. So the first thing is, if you need it because the situation is so overwhelming, okay, that's what you need for now. As you come more into balance and you feel a little bit more in control, at least of your own physiology and your own psychology, then I think you'll start to become aware, particularly as you start developing that meditative mind, that relaxed moment-to-moment awareness. You'll become aware of that moment when you're shifting from a feeling to making a joke out of it. And that awareness will allow you to relax with the feelings. Just as you might, instead of reacting if someone says something that's hurtful or irritating to you, the more meditative you become, the more you bring that relaxed moment-to-moment awareness of meditation into your daily life, the more you can just relax, take a couple deep breaths, and respond rather than react. And the same if you're using humor as a defense. Just allow yourself, say, okay, I'm about to use that defense. Let me just relax. Let me feel what's actually going on. All right, second question. My friends have told me that it can be helpful to spend some time each day smiling at yourself in the mirror, or to take a picture of yourself smiling in order to boost your mood. Do you think there is any real science behind this advice? Yes, there is some science behind it. I talked about the science of laughter, and there is similar science, is not quite as robust, about the beneficial effects of smiling for decreasing anxiety, enhancing mood, decreasing pain, lowering blood pressure in people who are hypertensive, just as laughter does. And it would seem that if you can create a smile that's as close to a genuine smile as possible, that you can promote some of these beneficial effects. So there is science for it there. But while you're creating the little drama of, the putting on the smile or picture of yourself smiling, the deeper work is really about being able to smile, about being able to be amused, particularly by our own foolishness. And I find the more I'm able, and this for me, this is the single best way of dealing with situations in which I'm troubled or upset or anxious, is I just take a couple deep breaths, and almost 90% of the time I start smiling at myself. I said, why am I getting so aggravated? Or yes, I'm unhappy, but I don't have to make it into as we used to say, a federal case. I don't have to make it into a grand drama. And so it's beginning to have that perspective. And again, meditation helps to create the physiological and psychological foundation, and helps to give us the distance so that we can have that perspective that allows us to smile at our foibles and our idiosyncrasies and at our dramatization of our pain. So yes, smiling itself, just putting on a smile. But every time I try to mimic a smile, I have to say I start laughing and smiling at myself, because it's kind of funny trying to do that. So maybe the artificial smile can be a route to the genuine smile at ourselves. Third question. A big source of joy and laughter in my life was spending time with my coworkers and friends. I live alone, and since the pandemic, I feel very disconnected from that aspect of my life. Are there ways I can maintain my sanity and still stay safe from COVID? It's a really important question. It is for me, and the question illuminates why so many people are going against what is so obvious from a a kind of scientific or even common sense perspective that we really need to keep. We need to wear those masks, and we need to keep social distancing. Right now, there's this tremendous surge in cases of COVID-19 in those states that have gone sort of ignored the warnings about social distancing and about masking. So this is really important question, and I think it's what I wish everyone was asking this same question, because this is the question that is going to save lives and help us move more quickly through the pandemic. And I think what I'll share with you is that what I have discovered, and my coworkers and my friends have discovered. Just before we started the Facebook Live, I was talking with Brian and Lauren, who are the ones who are kind of producing these events and making it possible for me to do them. And I'm connected to them. I'm connected to my coworkers every day. We've now shifted from phone conversations almost exclusively to Zoom, because we want to see each other. So if you are fortunate enough to have access to a computer and have access to Zoom, set up those meetings. I don't know what's happening in the questioner in your business, but in ours at the Center for Mind Body Medicine, we're meeting continually by Zoom. We're in touch with each other even more often, I believe, than we were when we were able to see each other in person. So I had a separate office that Lauren and Tatiana would work with me, and so Mary Elizabeth would work with me in my office, and then we had another office, and there were 10 or a dozen people working in those offices. And yeah, it was great to be with each other in person, but now with my office team, I'm on the phone or on a Zoom call every day. We're checking in every day because we want to see how we're doing. It's even more important to stay connected. And I feel, I wish I were in the same room with them, and I feel quite connected. So I think it's really important for people to connect with their coworkers. And if the people who are in charge of your business or your organization aren't facilitating it, tell them to facilitate it. That everybody needs it. And if they won't do it, then do it yourselves. Get together, even if it's not everybody, get together with some of your coworkers. You're used to hanging out with each other. Have a little time in the morning where you have a virtual cup of coffee or a cup of tea with each other. And with friends, it's really important. Pay attention to that little voice, that still small voice. Or maybe sometimes it's a shout. Call up so-and-so. And call them. Do a Zoom with them. Do FaceTime with them if you have a smartphone. I'm really appreciating the intelligence of my phone that allows me to connect in that way. My best friend George and I, we're doing we had a smartphone conversation the other night. I was thinking of calling him, and I was really busy, and he called me, and I was so happy to hear from him. We were on the phone for an hour and a half, just kind of hanging out, which we can't do in person anymore. So do it. Reach out. And if somebody else, the person who's in charge of a business or a friend or family member, doesn't initiate it, you initiate it yourself. In our society, it feels necessary to take yourself very seriously, especially in the work environment. Otherwise, people may not respect you or your decisions. How do you balance being professional while still finding ways to be lighthearted at times? This question, Lauren prepares the question. She takes the questions you ask and she puts a number of them in writing for me. And so this question got me really thinking about my own experience. And I am fortunate, privileged, and also to some degree, I have insisted on working in places, in situations where I could be lighthearted as well as serious. And I've been in situations where that was not possible, and I have not enjoyed them so much. The other day, Rosemary, who's our managing director, she's working with a new staff member. And she said to me that this new staff member said, in my old place of work, I couldn't really say what was on my mind. I couldn't totally be myself. I had to be, quote, professional. I had to be so serious all the time. And by professional, she also meant she couldn't talk about what was actually going on with herself. We need to create environments where we can be ourselves, where we can be ourselves with our joy as well as our grief. When we're working with organizations, Center for Mind Body Medicine, we like to work with whole hospital systems or whole community-based organizations or political organizations or human rights organizations. We want to create that situation in which we can be totally ourselves, and that includes being funny, enjoying ourselves. That needs to be brought into the culture of our full humanity needs to be brought into all places of work. Now, and if you're working in a place where that's not possible, I mean, what I discovered when I was working in those places, I had to go somewhere else to do it. I had to hang out outside. I had to have a beer after work with people to really, let down. And that's fine too. But it's wonderful to be in a place where you can be yourself. And if something is funny, it's funny. And to share it with other people. Now, the whole notion that you have to be serious all the time, as Sham, my teacher, used to say to me, seriousness is a disease. I think that situations in which people can be most free, most creative, can be lighthearted, can also be sad when they need to be sad. As far as I can tell, those work situations promote creativity. They promote collegiality. They support it. They make it easier to deal with the really serious things that come up. So when we do a training at Center for Mind Body Medicine, it goes on, and sometimes we start early in the morning. We start 8 in the morning and not end till 9 at night. And yes, it's serious, and we're dealing with very serious emotions, but we're also laughing. We allow that laughter to be there, and we allow the tears to be there. So this is a plea to help to create work situations in which you can be fully yourself. I have not noticed that the great leaders are people who are serious all the time, and certainly not serious about themselves all the time. That's oppressive. I think one of the charming features of of some of our political leaders, unfortunately not enough of them. This is one of the things I loved about Obama. He didn't always take himself so seriously. He had a sense of humor about himself. One of the difficulties, one of the tragedies, as well as the sadnesses about our current president, is he doesn't have much of a sense of humor. And so it's not, come on, this is the sense of humor is part of paying attention to the correctives, the natural correctives that are there in any work situation, including the situation, and perhaps especially the situation of running a country. Now, there are situations that are, work situations that are oppressive, assembly line work. I mean, just doing the same thing over and over and over again. It's hard to be too lighthearted, but even there are ways that people do find to be lighthearted. I think we have to look at the possibilities, look at the interactions, the human interactions that we can have. We'll come back to this. This is a really important topic, but those are my initial thoughts. I've noticed I've been laughing and enjoying life a lot less since the pandemic began. My family has faced a lot of hardships in recent months, and it is hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Do you have any suggestions to overcome the darkness? I take this question very seriously. I think there are many people. We've just completed a mind-body skills group. There are people in our group who've had terrible experiences during the pandemic. They lost a number of family members or lost many, many patients and co-workers that died. So I think that we have to honor the sadness, honor the grief, honor the pain, honor the hardships. We have to give those some time. And we have to have an opportunity to share what's going on. One of the things people said in the group, one woman said, I don't know if I would have survived. She meant quite literally, if I hadn't been in this group. And she was talking not only about learning the techniques that I've been sharing with you in the webinars, but also just having an opportunity to share what was going on with herself with other people and to feel her emotions in the presence of other people. So we need to honor that darkness. And then as we honor the darkness, there is a natural, and as we are able to share the darkness with others and see that we're not alone, there is a natural process that goes on, that we do begin in that meditative mind that allows us to honor the darkness, that mind in that body that has come back into physiological balance or greater physiological balance, that mind automatically is able to see the light and to see what's possible. Wherever that comes, whether it's in looking out the window or walking outside or reading a book or watching someone on TV or loving a family member who is still alive and still present, it will come. If we can honor the darkness, relax, grieve, experience it, that means that we can be open to the change that inevitably will come and to the fullness of being human. And I know it's not easy, and I've been through it myself, as I've told you early on with my brother's death at the beginning of the pandemic and with all the other grief that's around me. So I've had a little bit of that darkness myself. Not as much as other people, but I know that it's possible. I've been with people in that darkness, and I've seen them become aware of the light, not only at the end of the tunnel, but the light that's here right now, right in this moment. Okay, I know this is a privileged statement, but I have been enjoying aspects of working from home since the pandemic began. I finally have the time to exercise and cook for myself regularly. I'm afraid to lose that once life returns back to normal. How can I manage that fear? Well, it's beautiful that you've had that opportunity. I think that a number of us have had, I certainly have had the opportunity, even though I've actually been working longer hours, somehow I've had to cook for myself because it's not so easy to go out. And I have been exercising. It feels necessary. So I know exactly what you're saying. And I would say I put it in two ways. There's that wonderful quote from the New Testament: "Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof." So don't worry about the future. Just be present with whatever's happening right now. The future's going to take care of itself. Your fear, notice the fear, let it come, let it go. It's an aspect. It's just an emotion. If you need to have a dialogue with that fear, remember we did dialogue with emotions earlier, and you can read the script again in the transformation. Have a dialogue with the fear. What are you doing here? Well, I'm kind of enjoying myself. Why am I worried about not enjoying myself? Have that dialogue with the fear, or ask your wise guide to do about it. Or bringing in humor, as we say in New York, forget about it. Forget it. What good is it going to do you to be? I mean, have that perspective. And then if it's still there, notice it, let it come, let it go. And if it's still there, then use these imaginative techniques that I've been sharing with you. The dialogue, the written dialogue, the drawings, the guided imagery. Okay. This is related. I felt very happy and settled in my life for the last few months as the world seems to be going up in flames around me. This has been a big source of guilt. How do I know if I should be doing more or continue to focus on caring for myself? I think that dichotomy is a false dichotomy. The question, and my dear friend and colleague Sabrina and I we were recording a webinar for next week, and we were talking about this, and we were in the webinar. So I hope you'll watch the webinar next week. But both of us so clearly said, look inside. Use all these beautiful techniques to see what you should be doing. Part of it may be I should be, cooking certain foods for myself. Maybe I should exercise more. Maybe I should call somebody up. Maybe I should do a little more soft belly breathing. That's my self-care. But as you sit and you breathe, other things will come up. Maybe I should go outside. Maybe it'd be nice to see the people walking on my street and to say hello to them. Maybe I need to get involved in some kind of protest. Maybe I need to do something about my work. Let it come authentically from inside. One of the things that came to me, I think it came last time I was doing Facebook Live. I haven't done it yet, but I need to do it, is I need to reach out to our Mayor Bowser's government and say, listen, we have these techniques. I want to see if there are ways that we can be helpful to government employees who are dealing with so much stress and so much trauma now. So just look inside. Guilt is useful sometimes as a wake-up call. I think I mentioned this last week, but as an ongoing state of mind, it is not only useless, it is extremely destructive. What's the guilt saying to you? What's it telling you to do? Do it. Guilt is not the point. The point is, if guilt says, oh, I wish I was doing more to help so-and-so or help so-and-so or create a more equitable, more compassionate, more environment that's more inclusive, do something about it and look inside to see what you can do. Don't worry about what somebody else is doing. That may be good for you, but you're going to have your own inner voice will tell you. And the more meditative you can become, the better care you take care of yourself in a deep way, the more enlightened your self-care is, the more compassionate you're going to be and the more intelligent you're going to be about what you do to deal with inequities, to deal with those things that make you feel guilty. Okay, I'm alarmed by how quickly time is passing since the outbreak of the coronavirus. Is there a reason for this unsettling feeling? Or a way to find peace in the present moment? Well, I know what you mean. I've talked with friends about it. I've noticed exactly the same thing. It's Friday. Where did the week go? How fast it went. Time is going faster than it ever has. I thought, well, maybe that's idiosyncratic. Maybe that's just me because I'm older and I'm alone. And I've talked with a whole bunch of friends and colleagues, and they say, nope, me too. It's going very fast. So I don't know exactly why that's so, but it's a fact. And I think what I've done is I just relax with it. It's okay. Let me enjoy each moment as it passes. Let me ride the wave. Excuse me, I've never been a surfer. I still think Someday I may, excuse me, but that image of surfing or relaxing, or sometimes, because I've always enjoyed being in Jamaica and the sort of company of the Rastaman, just I enjoy that kind of, and I sometimes walk that way. I just kind of enjoy that easy walk. When we were concluding our mind-body skills groups, I realized that during this time, what's become more and more important to me is that sense of ease in my body, of ease in the present moment, of ease with other people, of ease with doing all the things that I need to do as a leader of an organization, all the things I need to do as a human being who's concerned about other human beings and who wants to do work that's useful to others, who wants to be connected to and useful to other people. But I get that from paying attention to the moment and being at ease with this moment as it passes. Then, can I speak to racism as a form of trauma and the ways the pandemic is unequally impacting Black and Brown communities in America? Yeah, it's a very big subject. Racism is a powerful form of trauma. What has been done, and it's a form of trauma for everyone, not just Black and Brown or red Indigenous people in this country. This historical trauma, these eldest sins of our country, the genocide, slavery, the consequences of those persist. They persist. We talked in an earlier webinar about epigenetics, that there may well be changes in the chromosomes that affect our genes, that affect how we deal with stress in the present moment because of trauma our ancestors experienced. We know scientifically that goes on for 3 generations. It may well have gone on for much longer. And socially, interpersonally, we transmit that trauma to one another. My family, Eastern European Jewish immigrants, came over at the beginning of the 20th century. That fear, that, as a friend of mine called it, Shtetl-Noia. It's a combination of shtetl, which is a kind of where Jews were restricted, they had to live in the shtetl, and paranoia, that fear of the other, that fear of the Gentile world. That's passed down from my grandparents to my parents to me, that weariness. And so for Black and Brown people, that's very much a part of their experience. Of course it's going to be passed down, that fear of what's going to happen, whether it's going to happen from the police, whether it's going to happen in sneers on the street, or avoidance, or separation, or criticism, or discrimination. That's part of the life experience of everybody who's in a minority in this country. And for those people for whom it's not a part of their experience now, a lot of those white people who are now, saying, no, we don't want any more of those brown people and keep those Black people in their place, they were kept in their places 50, 100, 200 years ago. No Irish need apply. The condemnation of the Italians in New York, the making fun of them as inferior. And the people who settled this country, they were pariahs in England. They were dissenters. They came here and they started persecuting other people who were dissenting. I'm laughing. It's comic, and this is also the great tragedy of our species, is that we're inflicting this harm, this racism, this discrimination, this misogyny, this chauvinism, and this xenophobia on other people. We've got to break the cycle. This is an opportunity. We're seeing it. And you ask about what about the differential effects of COVID-19 on Black and Brown people, on poor people, on old people, people who are living in tightly poor situations where they can't get away from each other. They can't have that social distancing. Hopefully, this great tragedy is waking us up to the even larger ongoing tragedy that is the legacy of slavery and the legacy of genocide and the legacy of that mind that is fearful and paranoid and angry, and that sort of mind that is staying in this fight or flight or frozen state and is fearful and angry of the other. That's the mind. Erik Erikson, the great psychoanalyst, called it pseudo-speciation. Kind of fancy word, but it means like you're not even the same species of me, and I'm scared of you for that reason, and I think you're worse than I am and less than I am. We've got to break that cycle. All of us, everybody, in ourselves first, and create opportunities for others to break it. That's what our groups, Sabrina and I will be talking about that next week, coming together in the Mind Body Skills group, or some kind of similar coming together where we can be ourselves and be with others who are themselves. We can begin to break this cycle. Not just saying because it's a good idea and you're more virtuous and you're a better person. No, because it's better for us. Being a racist is horrible for the racists. It's terrible for the people they're prejudiced against. But that mind, that fearful, angry, shut off, closed down mind and behavior is disastrous for the people who are behaving that way. So all of us need to be healed. So I think, do we have a little time for a couple more questions? Yeah, we do. So a new question that just came up. I've always been so serious. I do want to laugh more, but slapstick comedy is just not funny to me. How can I find other types of comedy? Does the type of comedy matter as long as we are laughing? Well, I first of all, the most important thing is just laugh. I just want to say that again. Laugh at yourself. That's the deepest, most powerful, most freeing laughter. And that laughter may ultimately allow you to laugh at the universe, to move through the universe, like that story I told of those 3 monks. That's the laughter we want. Now, if comedies are helpful, find the comedy that suits you. I've been watching something on TV. I'm watching a lot of TV I get on stationary bike and I watch these, I don't know, what do you call them? These series that seem to go on and on. So I'm watching one called The Rake it's on Netflix. And the guy, to me, the guy whose name is Cleaver Green, he's just funny. And he helps me laugh at the absurdity of life. He helps me laugh at my own foolishness. Is that the show for the rest of you? I don't know. Remember I talked about Norman Cousins. He loved the Marx Brothers. I love the Marx Brothers too. So I may look at the Marx Brothers for comedy. As I said, whatever floats your boat, whatever comedy is useful for you. I think the deepest comedy is the comedy, though, that helps us laugh at ourselves and laugh at all of our own foolishness. It just snaps us out of the situation of, feeling shut down and closed off and continually sorry for ourselves. So that's the most beautiful kind of comedy, and see what suits you. Another question. I would like to know the source for Dr. Gordon's Human Rights T-shirt. The T-shirt that I was wearing when I did the webinar, that Human Rights Have No Borders, it came it was designed by Farial Garani. And she was she passed a couple of years ago, wonderful, extraordinary human rights activist from Iran. And Jack Healy, who's my dear friend, who used to be executive director of Amnesty International. He now has a new organization. I think it's called Human Rights, not sure of the exact title of the organization. Jack is the one who gave me that T-shirt, and you can look up Jack Healy on and look up his website. And if I don't know if he has any more T-shirts like it, but it's a beautiful one, and I really enjoy it. I really appreciate these T-shirts. There's another T-shirt which I have to wear. I was wearing it the other evening. A T-shirt that a family that I've gotten to be friendly with and I'm consulting with gave me, and it's a T-shirt, and on the front of it is a picture of Aquila da Silva. It was a wonderful. I didn't know him, but by all accounts, a wonderful young African American man who was murdered in a kind of totally senseless act of street violence. And the shirt says, on the front, it says "Justice for Aquila da Silva," a picture of Aquila. And on the back is a line from one of his raps, which I love. And it says something like, "Forget about the hashtags, put your guns in the trash bag." And talking about humor, I just love that line. And I said to his mom, Shawnee, I said, "You got to put that on a T-shirt." She said it is on a T-shirt, and I'm going to send you the T-shirt. So I love that, and I love those mottos that help us wake up, to truths that we need to know. And in the case of the T-shirt, or Aquila da Silva, if you want that T-shirt, you can look up I think it's called the Aquila da Silva, DASILVA, and Aquila's AKHILA, Aquila da Silva Foundation. They have their T-shirts, and I like to wear those T-shirts, and I like to just share because it reminds me of something that I want to focus on. And if the T-shirt on top of that is funny, all the better. So thank you for being with me here. Thanks for all the questions that you've asked. I'm going to close this session. And so let's close this session by just sitting with each other and sitting quietly for a couple minutes, and breathing together. I kind of wish right now there was something written on the front of this shirt. My staff thinks I should wear shirts with a collar. I look more like a doctor. Okay, so I've got a collared shirt on, but I think I'm going to start wearing some of the T-shirts, especially now in summer too. So let's sit together, no matter what shirt you're wearing. No prejudice against any shirts. Just relaxing, breathing slowly and deeply, in through the nose, out through the mouth. And with each exhalation, each breath out, feel a little bit more comfortable in your whole body. A little more comfortable in whatever clothes you're wearing. And if a smile happens to come to your face, unbidden or bidden, invited or just showing up, let it come. Okay, open your eyes. Let your attention come back in the room. Have a good weekend. I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye-bye for now.